me, and I'm telling him it's Puff's assistant. Puff is calling her. She needs to go in, and he lets Leote in. So it's kind of quiet, but there's well over 200 people out there, and we're all wondering. There's prayer circles going on. We're praying for Big, and we see C's. We see C's come out, and he kicks a garbage can. He starts screaming, and we all knew that Big was gone.
Wow.
We knew it, man. And then now you're from the East Coast. You go back to your hotel, and you're trying to find how the fuck I'm getting off the West Coast. So now everybody's calling the airlines, and you can't just leave. So I have 2 more days there, and I'm there. I end up in Foxy Brown's room. She's on the phone with Jay, and Jay is not believing that Big is dead, so she hands me the phone. Tell him, Ed. And Jay is like, Playboy. I say, yo, Hov, he gone, man. And he dropped the phone. Now, at that time, Foxy's dating Corrupt. So Corrupt was, excuse me, I'm sorry, y'all. Corrupt was in the hotel. And I'm like, where's Corrupt? So Corrupt don't even know where this came from. Because nobody told Corrupt we killing Biggie tonight. If it was a West Coast thing that we found out later on it was. But nobody told Corrupt. So Corrupt is in this hotel room hiding because he's scared that we going to beat him, you know, not us, not me, but anybody that's associated with Big is going to fuck him up because he's in the dog pound. And it was weird, man. And then you wake up the next day, and I remember a young lady I have a lot of respect for by the name of Poetess. She's on the radio, and she's taking calls, and she's from the West Coast, and she's very, we lost Pac, now we lost Big. This kind of violence got to stop. I'm going to take some calls so somebody can say something about Big. And the nastiness that came over that radio, I will never forget it. He shouldn't have been here. F him. Yeah.
People.
Yeah,
callers.
he had something to do with Pac being killed. It was nasty, bro.
Wow.
And we don't realize that we lost 2 of the most important hip-hop artists of all time.
Yeah. What was the energy like being in L.A. at that moment?
My mom's was like, I don't care if you got to take the train. Get out of there. And then you heard that Puff was already gone. So we like, yo, we got to get out of here. I remember when my flight was actually going back to New York, and my car came to pick me up, bro. I laid down in the back of the Escalade or whatever it was, a Suburban. I laid down because I didn't want anybody to see that I was in the car because it was that thick. You don't know.
Yeah.
You know, you blinded. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't even know. They put police in front of our hotel for the next 2 days because you don't know if they're going to come and shoot the hotel up. You can't. You ordering room service. You're scared to go outside. You're on their turf.
Yeah.
And you don't know where this came from.
Yeah. When you think about the gang conflict then, and then it making its way to New York, what does that look like?
I still don't understand it, man. I really don't, because that was always their thing. You know, their thing has been going on for a long time. Crips and Bloods, Bloods against Bloods, Crips against Crips, Set against Set. And it really kind of started at Rikers Island, and then it just kind of spilled out. Because the Latinos were teamed up. You know what I mean? So I guess black people on the island felt they had to team up, and there was one Crip, a Blood, that had did something, and he was in Rikers Island. He formed the Blood Nation in Rikers Island, then it spilled over into the streets.
So that's how it came together.
Yeah, the Latin Kings was ruling Rikers Island. So I guess in order for cats to feel safe, you know, it's blood in, blood out.
It's interesting that became a thing present day.
Yeah. It was disgusting to me because the only gangs I knew was drug gangs.
Yeah.
You know, it's always about, this is my turf, you can't come over here and sell, you owe me money, I fronted you a brick, you ain't pay me, but it wasn't colors.
Yeah.
It wasn't just blind, I'm a Blood, you a Crip, I don't know you, but we got problems. It was never that. It was always about getting money. And if something happened, it was always behind getting money. This it ain't got nothing to do with money.
Yeah. It was just interesting to hear Jay speak on it in rhyme. when he spoke. You know, I can't remember the song, but just hearing him acknowledge where gang culture was in New York City was like, wow.
Yeah.
This is saying a lot.
We
Speaking of,
had it in the 70s.
yeah,
We had a gang culture. We had Seven Crowns, Seven Immortals, Savage Skulls. You know, even with Bambaataa and them, they were a gang, and they took it and put it into the music and stopped all of it.
yeah,
But then to see it come again to fruition in the late, 2018, 17, all the way up to now, it's like,
yeah.
that wasn't us. That's the West Coast thing.
How's it on the West Coast for you now?
I'm an OG, man. So I know all the shot callers. So I'm pretty much cool wherever I go on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Because when I used to live there, all the shot callers took me around. It was like,
Hey, you lived there for a time?
yeah, I lived there for a while.
Wow.
Yeah. When I left Hot 97, I went to work on the radio at 92.3 to be in LA. So I knew I was introduced from Mike Conception, who was one of the original Crips. And then, with what the late, great Jim Brown was doing, a lot of those blood shot callers took me around. It was like, this Ed's untouchable. Don't touch him. He good.
Yeah. Those phone calls go a long way.
Go a hell of a long way, bro.
Yeah. Speaking of Big Pot and just, the collaboration you speaking to, that's an iconic moment that where Brooklyn's at, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of collaborations in hip hop, obviously. Have there been any that you knew of that were supposed to happen but never did?
Gee, like I told you earlier, Rakim and Dr. Dre, that didn't happen. Method Man and Redman was kind of by mistake, but it did happen. Lil Kim and Foxy was supposed to happen.
Lil Kim and Fox.
Yeah. Thelma and Louise was supposed to be an album. And it never happened.
Why do you think that didn't happen?
Because friction between them two.
The two of them.
Both of them, at that time, you're just trying to be the best. And you don't want to look like, Foxy was with Nas and that crew over there with Jay penning probably like 5 records. Then you had Kim, that was with Big and Junior Mafia. And I guess at that time, it was like, well, I sold this many. I don't need to fuck with her. I ain't doing nothing with her. And from what I heard, they're supposed to be getting $1 million a piece non-recoupable just to do the album. And I think at some point they probably regret that they didn't do that album.
Yeah.
And if Big would have lived, that Commission album would have been crazy. Right? Him,
yeah.
Jay, that was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
They did a couple of songs together.
Yeah.
But Jay and Big, along with C's and Charlie Baltimore, that was the Commission. They were supposed to do some stuff.
Yeah.